with these next two graphs, we're going to write the system of inequalities that fits what we see here on the graph. Now, only the solutions have been shaded. They don't do all the shading, just the one where, like for this one, where all three have overlapped. So here's where all three have overlapped. Let's think about what the shading would look like for each line. For this one here, I would be shading on this side of the line. For this one here, I'd be shading on this side of the line. And for this one here, I'd be shading on the upper part of the line. See how this way, all of my lines would then come into this triangle right here. All the shading would overlap 3 times, only in that space. The rest of them would overlap 2, 1, 0. All right, so let's see what our 3 inequalities would look like. Let's start with this one right here. Let's start with this guy right here. Well, my y-intercept is 3, so that means b equals 3 for that first one. And then let's find out what our slope is. Well, my slope, let's pick this point here, and I'm going to go down, looks like 5, and then over 4, so 5 over 4. And those are the only 2 parts that I need. Let's write the first inequality. I'm going to have y, we'll worry about the inequality in a second, but the equation would be negative 5 over 4, because we're going down 5 over 4. I forgot that negative there at first, but we double checked that, and now we're good. Double check yourself before you wreck yourself. So down 5 and then over 4, and we're starting at positive 3 for my y-intercept. Now let's think about our inequality here. I'm shading below the line, so that means that I'm going to be less than, and it's a solid line, so less than or equal to. So there's my first one. Let's take a look at this second one here. Well, once again, my y-intercept is 3, so b equals 3. That's nice. My slope looks like I'm going down 3 and then over 1. So I'm going down 3 and then negative 1, so that's negative over negative, that's positive. So positive 3. Down 3, negative 1, so negative 3 over negative 1 gives me positive 3. And that also makes sense because we're going up and to the right, and we know that a positive slope is when we're going up and to the right. Negative slope, we're going down and to the right. So let's write that one. I'm going to have y, and we'll worry about that inequality in a second. We have 3x plus 3. Let's think about it now. Here is my line, and I'm shading below it. So it's going to be less than or equal to once again. Last one will be that horizontal line, which we know is a y equals equation traditionally. So I have negative 2 as my point here. So I'm going to have y, and we'll worry about that inequality here in a second, but we know it's going through negative 2. I'm shading above it, so we are going to be greater than negative 2. And why did I pick greater than, not greater than or equal to? It's because of this dashed line right here. When it's dashed, it's just strictly greater than. See if you can handle that second one on your own. There's only 2 equations this time, so it's a little bit easier, so feel free to pause it and try it on your own. So let's get into it. Start with this solid line first. How about? Well, here my y-intercept is 4, so that means b equals 4. And my slope, let's see if we can count that bad boy out. Looks like we're just going down 1, over 1, so down and then to the right, so that means negative 1 for our slope. So let's write our equation, or inequality, excuse me. We're going to have y, we'll worry about the inequality in a second, negative x plus 4. Well, I am shading below the line, so it's going to be y is less than or equal to negative x plus 4. Let's take a look at the vertical line here. We know that's usually that's always an x equals equation. Here we're dealing with inequalities, so we have to worry about what the inequality is. But we know that we're going to have x, and it's going through positive 1. Now let's figure out the inequality. Well, if I'm going to the right when I shade, shading to the right here, I'm going to the positive numbers, I'm going to the larger numbers than 1, so it's going to be x's greater than 1, and it's strictly greater than because of the dashed line. So here's my system. Wonderful. So we need to be able to go both ways, given the graphs with the shading, and then also given the systems, and then we need to graph them with the shading.